Do your best. Let's go. Lions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lions.
Oh my God! Victory Sunday.
The Giants look at their schedule and they go, "Oh, the Detroit Lions," and they put the big W, right?
Correct.
It's folks. It's everybody that is on the screen right now that is what makes this special, because this organization has been so bad for so long. Yet here we all are on a Sunday night at 7:00, chopping it up about this football team, because winning 3 in a row and getting this done for the first time since 2017, and like Mark said, having some momentum for this fan base.
When we played against the Patriots one game on Thanksgiving, I had a pretty good game too, and it was just the atmosphere is just different. It's just there is just everybody's ready. You get a chance to wear the throwback uniforms. It was just fun.
I think it's a mixture of both. I think you got to have a good program, but I think the city, the way it's viewed nationally, like the people in Detroit, the business people, the money makers, the marketers, they got to market Detroit different nationally.
And welcome to the Detroit Lions News Show, your number one source for Detroit Lions news. And today we have a huge guest today. Third time Matt Dery's been on. I love you, brother. How the hell has it been? Happy holidays.
Coach D, it's great to see you, my friend. Joe as well. Always a pleasure to be with you guys. And hey, let's get a win in Chicago this week. That'd be nice, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
The weather forecast is not looking great, though.
No, it's not. And I was just talking to the host of Locked On Bears on our network, and he's asking about Jared Goff, and I said this is a great test for Goff, because everybody likes to say, and I heard my friend Mike Valenti say it today on the ticket, cold weather games aren't for him. Last 11, I think he's played under 40 degrees, just 7 touchdowns, 7 picks, but goes into Chicago, wind, cold, about 33 degrees, and gets it done. It'd be nice to kind of shut up some of the haters.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. Here's the thing about Jared Goff. Like, we talk about it all the time, like the cold weather games and how he kind of struggles in the cold weather games. I do want to see it, because the next couple games that you're going to play indoors. You're going to play the Cowboys indoors. You're going to play the Vikings indoors. You're going to play the Broncos at home. So this is a game you kind of want to see what you got, because if you have to go to Philly or you have to go to San Francisco, I mean, it's a good litmus test on what you're getting. And if you want to extend him, now I know Darcy always puts in my the notes that I always want to extend this guy, but I just want to see what this guy can give us, because if he can give us a good quarterback play, let's extend him. And this is a good litmus test on if he's going to be the guy that you want to put it as an extension right there.
Let's lift up the curtain for a second. I'm cutting this off. So Darcy's on with us pre-show, talking about how he's ready for the Hendon Hooker era. And it's like, wait a minute. God bless the kid, okay? He's 25, 26, coming off an ACL. I'm all for looking and seeing him play maybe later in the year, like in garbage time. But come on now, Jared Goff, what's they 17-5 in their last 22? Like, the guy's a winner. He's playing well. Like, I don't know. I'm not ready to hand the keys over to Hendon Hooker just yet. So got to bust Darcy's chops a little bit on that.
Well, seriously, okay, Brad Holmes did not, draft Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round for him just to not play on this team at all. Okay, right. I know we have Jared Goff for another year, so we have to, guys. Okay, we spent $128 million on the offense. How much have we spent on the defense? $87 million. Okay. Now we have Penny Sewell coming up. We have Amon-Ra coming up. We're going to have to pay these dudes, right?
Jonah Jackson.
Well, I don't believe in paying guards, but I think drafting guards in the 3rd round is the way to go. That's the way I look at it. But seriously, you want to pay 2017, Jared Goff led the league in turnovers. 2018, he led the league in turnovers. First year as a Detroit Lion, he led the league in turnovers. The first part of last year, he led the league in turnovers. Do you see a certain Jekyll and Hyde here? Are you guys scared going down the last 5 games? That you saw it 2 games ago against Chicago and Green Bay. What was it? 10 turnovers altogether, 6 by Jared Goff. Joe, I know that's your guy.
Look, the last 5 games have been kind of ridiculous on all fronts for the Detroit Lions. On all fronts, defensively, offensively, Jared Goff hasn't played well. We know that's well aware. But you got to look at the case study. So he's done 22 games with the Lions. So you can't say, oh, look at the last 5 games and let's dismiss the rest. It just doesn't work that way. So if you're going to look at it realistically, I mean, Darcy wants Hendon Hooker. He thinks that Hendon Hooker could be the pick, right? Get the guy. If he is a guy, cool. But if he's not, he's not. And the one thing I didn't like about the Hendon Hooker pick, and Matt, I don't know if you will agree with this, but there was needs that the Lions had. Okay, there was needs that the Lions had. We seen them take a chance with Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Pascal with injury history. So they needed a guy on the defensive line, and they relied too much on Charles Harris, on Romeo Okwara, and now you're starting to reap what's going on with the Lee McNeil getting injured, James Houston getting injured. You're thin there, and the guys that you thought that Brett Holmes thought was going to be the players that would take them to the next level or even be good, they're not good. So would I have rather had a Byron Young who's shown out with the LA Rams? Yes. Would I rather have a Kobe Turner instead of Broderick Martin? Yes. So the Hendon Hooker pick just didn't make any sense to me because it's not going to help you this year. And if you really wanted a quarterback for the future, this is a draft a quarterback for the future.
Well, yeah, Joe, but they're not going to draft a quarterback this year. They weren't anyway. I don't think based upon their draft position. They knew they were going to have a good team this year. And the really elite quarterbacks are all going to go very, very early in this draft. It's going to be crazy the first 15 picks. How many are going to be quarterbacks? I'm with you about Broderick Martin. Forget about Hendon Hooker for a second. You got a kid in Martin. It's not his fault, but a 3rd-round pick for him was absolutely atrocious. Mm-hmm. He doesn't play. I mean, it's one thing if he were active and played a few snaps. He's inactive every week. And so that's what's intriguing to me about this Sunday. Now, I'm sure we'll get into it, but with Noah Lee McNeil, who's going to get that spot? Let Martin play. Can we see? Is he that bad? It's not like we're sitting a 6th-round pick here that was inactive. It's a 3rd-round pick. So, I Hooker, who knows? Goff, this to me is going to be his team this year and next, like you said. But maybe at the end, they might decide. They hate Hendon Hooker so much. No one hates Hendon Hooker. No. Come on. I like him. I like the pick. But I think they're going to decide very late in the game on Goff, and that's probably the right move. But that's a big drop off when you're asking a guy that's been to a Super Bowl to then hand the keys over to a guy that has never even taken a snap in the NFL yet.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we both know this, Matt. It's so easy to get worse at quarterback than better at quarterback. I mean, we look around the whole NFL. We got Zach Wilson starting. We got Desmond Ridder starting. We got Taylor Heineke at one point starting for the the Atlanta Falcons. Like the quarterbacks in this league right now, granted some of them are injured, it's just not good. So if you think that you're going to get better, you better be certain you're going to get better because there's a couple of teams that would love to have Jared Goff as their quarterback. That's just the reality because he can win in any situations.
No, I agree. What about Sam Laporta? I mean, you want to talk about a guy that has helped Jared Goff immensely, and I see this being a huge key for Sunday too. Is they got to continue this pitch and catch routine with Goff and Laporta because it's working. I never thought in a million years he'd be this good, but man, he has bailed this offense out, and I love what I'm seeing, Joe, right now from him. And I could see this weekend, especially in cold, windy conditions at Soldier Field, Goff really needing his tight end in a big way this week.
Yeah, Sam Laporta, I loved him coming out of college. I just feel like when he came out of college with Iowa, he had Spencer Petras as his quarterback. I mean, think about that for a minute. That guy was absolutely terrible as a quarterback in college. Like probably one of the worst. It's probably one of the worst offenses in the whole college football. And the fact of the matter is, he's outdone his a touchdown number that he had at Iowa. So look. I like Sam Laporta. I didn't think he'd be this good this quickly. This is like superstar quality. And if you can get a superstar in a 2nd round as a general manager, pretty damn good. And then you look at what Brian Branch, I think PFF said he's one of the best slot pass defenders in the whole NFL, 3rd best, I think.
Yep.
So when you look at all that, like those are 2 second-round picks. And Matt, me and you both know that the Lions have struggled for years to get production of their second-round picks. We have guys that Brett Holmes has drafted in Levi Onwuzurike and Josh Pascal, who have yet to show out. And like you've seen Aaron Glenn call out Pascal, and Onwuzurike, we haven't seen much of him. I mean, obviously he was hurt those 2 years. With Ali McNeil out now, this is a good chance for Levi Onwuzurike to kind of get back in good graces, if you say.
I have no idea what they're going to do, Joe, on Sunday. Who's going to be active, who's not. I know Benito Jones is going to play. I know Quentin Bohanna is going to play. But other than that, I have no idea where they're going with this. Do they bring up Alu from the practice squad already? Does Bugs get out of the doghouse?
Mm-hmm.
Martin, Onwuzurike is never healthy. Your guess is as good as mine. The bottom line is that, like you mentioned, Kaminsky and Pascal, when moved to the inside, have got to make some plays. Have to. I hope, and I've said this on Locked On Lions, and I said it today on the Wednesday show. This McNeil injury hurts big time. This is a big injury. You know, you can't afford to lose Jared Goff. Not that Bridgewater's bad, but you cannot afford to lose Lee McNeil. That's the middle of your defense. It's an important spot. And if I'm the Bears, I'm running that football right up the gut Sunday and see if the Lions can stop it.
Here's the thing. I think a lot of people glossed over how good Ali McNeil's been this year.
Yeah.
I think he's the 4th or 5th best in the NFL in interior defensive line. And look, anytime you lose a player like that, it's huge. And this is a defense that really can't afford injuries like that, Matt. Like, if you look at it, like, they lost James Houston, they lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, they lost Emmanuel Mosley 2 plays in. Like, they've had enough injuries where they were counting on some of these guys to be good. And then when you have these injuries like Ali McNeil and Alex Anzalone, he might be back this week. But the simple part of the fact is you can't be losing guys like this. Like, this does hurt because you don't have a defensive tackle that's your second line of defense. That's like, you're like, okay, this guy could take it over right here. Like, you don't have that. I mean, is it Isaiah Bugs? Is it Onwuzurike? Is it going to be Broderick Martin comes out of nowhere, out of mothballs, and says, "I'm here"? I mean, it's such a unique situation because if I was a Bears, I would do the same damn thing, run it up the gut and see what they have, because you don't know any little thing that happens on a defense where you take a player out and you put a player in, you have no idea how that's going to work out.
No,
you have literally no idea.
You guys realize, like, we have Bohanna. He was on the practice squad for the Dallas Cowboys, those Cowboys, you know, and then he's starting for us, you know. Doesn't that worry you guys? Does not worry you guys?
You know,
that we have practice squad guys that are starting?
Well, Darcy, one of the commenters earlier was like, why are you guys blasting the 3rd round picks? The first 4 picks have been great. No question. No one's not saying that. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a special talent. Jack Campbell this week took big steps. Branch is a beast. And Laporte is a beast. So that's pretty darn good. But they have messed up, you know, in terms of, well, Hooker doesn't play. And I don't know about Broderick Martin. It's bizarre. But yeah, I mean, when Quentin Bohanna is on the Cowboys practice squad and when playing more snaps and even a Charles Harris and Romeo Okwara, I know they play different positions, but it is concerning for sure. I think they expected Onwuzurike by now to be healthy and contributing, and he looked pretty good in August. And then now it's back to the injury stuff. The Bugs thing is a definite question mark and a head scratcher. Somebody's got to step up now. You have to. If Alu is active this week after being out of football over guys like Onwuzurike and Bugs, those guys will never play. This is the week that one of those two, Levi or Isaiah, hopefully step up and perform, because when Bugs has played, he's been good. But it just sounds like, from what I've heard, you know, there's weeks that go by he's not practicing hard. If you're not going to practice hard for Dan Campbell, you're not going to suit up. That's simple as that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And you know what the funny thing is, like you said just a moment ago, if you're not active in this game, I don't think you'll ever be active. Like, this is kind of the week that if you aren't active, it's kind of an indictment on your future with the franchise.
Yeah.
And I look at Isaiah Bugs and I go, he's had flashes of like where he's really good. And then you hear that he's not practicing like hard enough. Like, like you said, a coach like Dan Campbell is not going to take that,
No.
and you
Well-
just you're not going to win him over. And Aaron Glenn, another player's coach, he's not going to take it either. So this whole thing, this is the week to show. If it's Onzarike, if it's Ali McNeil, I mean not Ali McNeil, Isaiah Buggs, okay, but if it's Alu, I got bad news for you, man. Like this is going to be brutal. And someone said in the chat that Martin was a project guy. Then why did you draft him in the 3rd round? You don't draft projects in the 3rd round.
You could have gotten him later. No
Yeah.
question. Go ahead, Darcy. You're going to say something?
Yeah, well, you remember that cryptic message, and Dan Campbell already said he doesn't want tires, right? Isaiah Buggs, do you remember that in the beginning of the season? I think it was the 2nd game of the season.
In the Twitter thing, yeah.
So he's already, he's already making cryptic messages like, dude, why would you do that? So that told me right there, our trenches aren't really there. We have Frank Ragnow with the toe, right? Swordsdale, did you see how badly he got the swim move, right? He got swim moves so bad. Like I think this draft class.
I'm giving him a break. He's a 5th rounder from William and Mary. He gets more of a break to me than Buggs, because Buggs last year performed, and poor Swordsdale. And that you bring up a great point, Coach. Ragnow, you take Ragnow and McNeil off this game, off this team for this game. That's trouble.
Yeah.
You want to win up front. That run game is so much better when Frank's out there. And this is not a knock on Glasgow, but when Glasgow can play guard and Ragnow can play center, this is as good an offensive line as there's in the league. So, not sure Ragnow's going to play this week with the knee. That's also a certain concern, loss. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I look at Swordsdale and I go, okay, he was kind of like a project coming out. I mean, he's an offensive lineman, and I really don't think that they kind of thought that he'd be playing this early.
No,
like if you think about it, like Vaitai got hurt, which they thought he'd stay healthy. Glasgow had to move over. Jonah Jackson was hurt for a little bit. Like they didn't have like the luxury of saying, okay, you can learn off these guys for a while. He was kind of thrust into action pretty quickly. I think Jonah Jackson got hurt like the 3rd or 4th game. So Swordsdale is kind of learning on the job. That's basically what it comes down to. But the rest of these veteran guys, like Onzarike and Pascal, like there's no excuse. Like you were talking about Isaiah Buggs, there's no excuse for him either. Like these veterans, they gotta act like veterans. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, step up. This is the week to do it for sure.
Yeah. So we got the last 10 minutes of this show. The last topic is, what do you guys think? Who is the biggest contender to actually catch the Lions maybe in the division, or who are we going to play in the playoffs? Would it be a bigger story if Matthew Stafford came back here and had a homecoming with the Rams? I looked at their schedule. They're playing in Baltimore on the road. That's a tough place to. I really can't see it, but I want to get your guys' opinion and talk about that, and then we'll end this show. And I really appreciate Matt Dery to come on. You're an awesome guy.
Thanks,
I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate it.
Let me say this. Anytime you need me, I know my schedule's crazy. I appreciate you guys having me on. I want nothing to do with Matthew Stafford here. Nothing. And I get it. This is not the Rams that won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Not the same team. Cooper Kupp is not what he was. The run game's not what it was. Their O-line with Whitworth retiring, not what it was. But guys, let's be honest. If the Lions win this division, which I think they're going to, hosting the first playoff game in this town since '93, the last thing we need in this town as we're celebrating hosting a playoff game is number 9 coming back. That would just be the biggest bummer of all time. I'm not even hating on Stafford. I'm just saying I don't think he would want that either. No. Like, we're finally talking Lions in the playoffs, and we got to have the Stafford angle, the McVay and Goff angle, the Aaron Donald angle. We didn't draft Aaron Donald. We took Eric Ebron. Like, I want no part of that. Give me the Packers. Give me the Vikings. Give me the Seahawks. I'll take Geno freaking Smith, who the Lions can't beat, over the Stafford angle. It would just be such a bummer for me. That's just me, though. Joe, what do you think?
I certainly don't want to see the Rams, and I just harken back to Matthew Stafford is a guy that can beat you. We all know that. And then the Cooper Cup angle and the Puka Nacua, the guy that's like just coming out of nowhere who is just a beast. And then they got Aaron Donald. Like they still got pieces on that team that can beat you. And I just don't like the matchup, especially those two wide receivers against our secondary, against our pass rush. Like, okay, no, not even a little bit. I see Cooper Cup and Nakua get open out of thin air. Like I was watching. I think the Rams are playing the Seahawks, and they beat them. Or no, was it the Seahawks? Yeah, it was Seahawks. And Nakua just gets open out of nowhere. He was covered.
That was week 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then they beat him a second time too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, the Rams are not world beaters. I'm not scared and saying the Lions have no chance. I just saying from an angle of I don't want that. And Brian put up on the Darcy put up on the screen. Brian Stover wrote in, yeah, Green Bay right now is playing very good football. That's a dangerous team. Jordan Love looks good. That's a possibility. If the Vikings, and I think Kevin O'Connell's done a nice job, if the Vikings can sneak in, that would also be an interesting angle because the Lions would be playing the Vikings 3 times in 4 weeks, which is outrageous. And that's dangerous too. But no, I just don't want to see the Rams. I want to enjoy that week of hype. And last thing we needed would be to do a history lesson all week with Stafford and McVay and all that kind of
Well, that would bring you back to your old radio days at 97 when the ticket.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it, with those topics and stuff like that. Jordan Love and those Green Bay Packers are playing pretty good. They beat us. Rashawn Gary, the best edge rusher looking coming out of Michigan the last 3 years. Sorry, Aiden Hutchinson.
Uh-oh.
Sorry. Did I say Hutch? Oh, I didn't mean that. Guys. Oh, well, you're a Sparty. You're a Sparty anyways, Joe. So you can't comment on that. So, what do you guys think about?
Congratulations to Joe. If Joe's an MSU guy, congratulations to Joe. I love their new football coach, and they're going to have a new school president. Apparently, like things are on the up and up. Basketball team, no, but like,
well, you can't get much lower than they were. I mean,
right. But that would be things are turning around in East Lansing. We hope, right?
Hopefully it stays that way. But no, I Darcy, you hit on something I want to hit on real quick. The one thing I look at with Hutch, like the only reason I'm kind of disappointed in a little bit is like if you look at what Thibodeau is doing in New York, right? 11.5 sacks.
Yeah.
He's at 5.5 sacks. I understand he's getting all this pressure, but at some point, if you want to become the elite of the elite, you got to finish the deal, like get a sack, And I know that he doesn't have any help on his defensive line. I know that he's basically the only guy, especially with the Lee McNeil being out now in the next 4 weeks. But at some point, you're just gonna have to throw it into hyper mode because we look at Pittsburgh with T.J. Watt, and he's a one-man wrecking crew, and then you got Alex Highsmith on the other side who came along a couple of years ago, and they've been a good tandem. But up until last year, I mean, it was T.J. Watt and then Myles Garrett, who is on the other side of Myles Garrett. Can you really name him? Like the average fan's not gonna really name who's on the opposite side of Myles Garrett. It's because they're elite pass rushers, and we drafted him number 2 overall. Needs to be a little bit better, in my opinion, especially going down the stretch with all these guys.
I don't disagree. I will say this though: if you put Aiden Hutchinson next to Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith, I think you got more than 5.5 sacks. Right. I'm not, and I'm not some giant Hutch defender. I think Aiden's fantastic. I like him a lot. I'm a big PFF fan. Pro Football Focus really likes Hutchinson. They've graded him out highly every week. Even the games where you go, man, what's he really done all night? And obviously, you got a game ball from Dan Campbell a few weeks ago on that strip sack on Justin Fields. But PFF grades him out pretty high, so I'll give him that. But you're right. This week is one of those weeks where it's, another game against the Bears. What if Montez Sweat gets loose, gets a couple of sacks, and we're going, man, why didn't Brad go get Sweat at the deadline? Chase Young, whomever, to help Hutchinson out. But it is time for, you're right, for Hutchinson to get his mitts on the Fields a couple of times this week. I don't disagree.
And I'm not saying that he's been a disappointment or anything like that. I'm just saying at some point you need something more. I know he has no help. I know he has got old man Charles Harris and Romeo Okwara in the Walker. But the reality of the situation is he he needs to be a little bit better, and he's the only guy that they got right now. Lee McNeil's out. I mean, I don't know who's going to play defensive tackle. John Kaminsky, who they signed to that 2-year contract, he's been non-existent too. So we're kind of in this little purgatory, and I think Brad Holmes came into this year thinking that Harris would give us something, Okwara would give us something, Houston would give us something, and Kaminsky would give something, and none of them are giving something, and obviously Houston because of injured. But
and that's you mentioned those guys. It's a great point you bring up. Charles Harris was on a 1-year deal, a prove-it-year deal, and then got multi-years, and now he's a waste. Yep. Kaminsky, same thing. Fantastic last year. Great pickup from Brad Holmes on a 1-year deal from Atlanta, and now got a 2-year deal. I'm not saying that he's not trying as hard, but these guys that are playing for contract, it's a little bit different.
Yep.
The fact that James Houston said today that he's hoping to be back maybe for week 17, play a couple of games. They need him back in the worst way. But what was funny was in the preseason, if you remember, Joe and Darcy, James Houston didn't perform great in camp, nor in the preseason, and it was playing late into the preseason in fourth quarters. And people were like, why is James Houston out there? They were sending a little message to him. Now all of a sudden it's like, oh, James, please come back. We need you so bad. It's wild. But hey, let's get him back. They need him back.
They need him back in the worst way.
So we got 1 minute left here, and then we're going to end the show. What are the keys of the game to beat those Chicago Bears? Talk about them.
Well, Darcy, for me, they got to stop the run. I think the Bears are going to try to pound it inside with Herbert and Roschon Johnson and those guys early, and see if Bohanna and Jones and those guys are up to the challenge now that McNeil's out. So stopping the run. And the other thing, too, is on that read option and some of that RPO stuff with Fields, if they have success running up the middle, there's going to be a time where Fields puts that ball in Herbert's mitts, takes it back out, pulls it back out, and runs outside. And if the defense is collapsing, Fields could have a field day. So that's going to be key. And certainly the passing game in this weather is going to be interesting. I love the fact that this past Sunday, Lions didn't turn it over against the Saints. Goff outdoors. We can restrict the turnovers and keep the football in the Lions' hands. I think the Lions will be in good shape. Those are two things I'm looking at. What about you, Joe?
Okay, the first thing I'm looking at is stopping Justin Fields running the ball, because I think when you look at this schedule coming up, I think that this is this is kind of like the Aaron Glenn. You have to kind of put a game plan together against these running quarterbacks, because you're going to be playing Justin Fields. You're going to be playing Russell Wilson. I know he's older, but he can still get out of the pocket and move. You got Joshua Dobbs twice, and then you got Dak Prescott. So there is no rest for this team, especially against running quarterbacks. So Justin Fields off the hop is going to be a good test for you. And I know that Matt said it right. They're going to test this Lions interior defense in the first part of the game. And if they stand tall, that could be huge. But if they can't, it could be a long day. That's number one. And then the number two thing is Jared Goff's got to avoid turnovers at all costs. I think the Bears are one of those teams that if you give them life, they kind of take it and run. And they're kind of a young and inexperienced team. So when you're young and inexperienced, sometimes you get a couple good things happening your way, and they start to get a mojo going. We were lucky as hell last time. They cannot do the same thing in Chicago. They're not in a dome. They're not, they're at Chicago in bad weather. You can't do the same thing that you did the last time against Chicago.
Well, last year, the magic number was 20. Well, for the last 9 games of the season. If you got over 20 points, you won the game. This year, it seems like the number is 30 or high 20s. So, obviously, every NFL team needs to stop the run. That's what they go in the mindset, right? So, but Dan Gamble, I meant to say, sorry, he changed his name, Dan Gamble. He is an old school football coach where he likes to run the ball until the fourth quarter and wear your defensive lineman out. But sometimes that doesn't work when you're freaking doing stupid crap like fake punting on the 23-yard line. You can't do that kind of stupid stuff. So I do believe
you didn't like that, coach, did you?
Sorry, I'm trying to produce and do this. Here,
he's allowed to make a mistake. They fired you up. It was not a good call, but at least after the game, he said, "My bad."
my bad. And How many times has he said "my bad" after?
I bet more times than Matt Patricia. So we'll take
Yeah,
it.
right. But some of his stuff works, and if it works, you're like, okay, that's cool. And if it doesn't work, you're like, why did he do that? But if he does it and it works, you're like, oh, that's a brilliant call. Like he's kind of that guy. He learned off Sean Payton. He learned off Sean Payton for a reason. Sean Payton was another guy who was just gutsy, didn't care at any moment. He would go for it.
So this is a must-win game. It's a common opponent against the Packers, which I do believe the Packers are going to get the wild card, and we are going to play them. Hopefully, well, depends on what seed we get. I think we're going to get the third seed. I think we're slated for that, but I do think the Packers are going to get a wild card spot. So anything else? Thank you, Matt, for coming on. I love you, brother.
Thanks,
Whatever
man.
I could do, take you out for dinner before the game. You don't go to the games. I don't know. Whatever I could do for you, brother. Whatever.
I appreciate you, Darcy. Thanks so much for having me, fellas. It was great to see you. Joe, good to see you again. And anytime, we'll have to do this again for sure, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Do your best. Let's go. Lions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Lions.
Oh my God! Victory Sunday.
The Giants look at their schedule and they go, "Oh, the Detroit Lions," and they put the big W, right?
Correct.
It's folks. It's everybody that is on the screen right now.
Oh shit! How's it going? I forgot. I got it in the stream.